The threshold breaks the night, the sky turned the color of deep water. Jordan felt it before the wind carried it. A pulse, not Naomi's heartbeat, not the groves, but something older. The earth itself inhaling. He stood at the edge of the garden of listening. The Naomi tree was no longer just a tree. Its trunk shimmered like a memory half-dreamed. The roots beneath his feet thrummed, and every leaf bent toward him as if waiting. "It's time," whispered the old keeper from within. The bark. Her voice was a rustle of cedar and bone. Jordan didn't answer. He couldn't. His breath had become song without sound. His chest vibrated faintly, carrying Naomi's rhythm and something else, the threshold's echo. Far away, across the salt plains where Naomi had walked, the air split open like silk. The unbeing stepped into the world in its new shape. It had no face, only hollows where memory should have been. Its body was not flesh, but the heavy, aching absence of truth. Wherever it walked, color dulled. Names faltered on tongues. A river. Forgot it had ever been water. "She is planting too much," it hissed, its voice like cracking ice. "I will burn the roots before they bloom." The return of the silver-eyed child at the eastern edge of the ash hills. The silver-eyed child knelt in their circle of charcoal. They had drawn 13 rings, each one humming faintly with light. When the unbeing crossed the horizon, the child's eyes flared like molten silver. They touched the last ring and whispered, "Doorway." The ground splittened with violence. But like a page turning, roots of light surged upward. Naomi's roots. The child smiled faintly. "You're late," they said, and their voice carried in every direction. Naomi descends high above. In the temple of first breath, Naomi held the seed that pulsed like 1,000 lives waiting to be spoken. Her barkskin hands trembled. "You are." "The bridge now," said Tyone, god of sorrowed winds. Naomi looked down. Far below, she felt Jordan moving through the garden like a single note waiting to resolve. She felt the unbeing's cold rising, the way absence tried to choke memory. She felt the silver-eyed child opening a path. "It's not just me," she said softly, and the seed flared with gold. "It's all of us." She stepped off the temple's living stone. Her body dissolved into root and breath, into light and soil. She fell, not like a leaf, but like rain returning home. The meeting place, the garden of listening, shifted. Its trees bent, creating a hollow of silver and green. Jordan stood in the center, trembling as Naomi's roots broke the soil in a spiral around him. A wind rose without source. The first tendrils of light brushed his hands. "Naomi, Jordan." Voice was everywhere and inside him at once. When her form finally took shape, half light, woven with rivers and starlight, he dropped to his knees. But she lifted his chin gently. "No kneeling. You are threshold. Stand with me." The earth beneath them shuddered. A shadow spread over the horizon like spilled ink. The unbeing had found the garden. The first confrontation, the unbeing stepped between the trees. And the grove song faltered. It smiled, or would have if it had a mouth. So much memory, it hissed. So much to erase. Naomi's light flared, and Jordan's chest hummed in answer. The silver-eyed child appeared at the grove's edge, barefoot, ash smeared on their face. "You can't erase what has been named," the child said. The unbeing tilted its hollow head. "Then I will unname it." Naomi reached out her hand, not in battle, but in invitation. Her voice was a low hum, the same one Echo had once sung to the first seed. "Come be known, come be named, come behold." For the first time, the unbeing stepped back. The breath before Jordan felt it before anyone else. The stillness, the way the air itself bent. The garden was no longer just a grove. It was a threshold between forgetting and remembering, between erasure and becoming. His heartbeat matched Naomi's. The silver-eyed child placed their hand on the soil. "Begins," they whispered. And in the roots below, something ancient answered. When roots remember fire, the first sound was not war. It was breath. Naomi inhaled, and the grove inhaled with her. Every tree bent, every leaf curled, every root hummed as if preparing to speak. Jordan felt the vibration crawl into his bones until his pulse wasn't his own. The silver-eyed child stepped forward, the ash circles on their skin glowing faintly like embers waking. The unbeing tilted its hollow head. "You think roots and breath can stop what forgetting built?" Its voice cracked the air, a sound like paper tearing in a library where no one had spoken for centuries. Naomi did not answer with words. She placed her palm against the soil. Roots flared outward like veins of gold. The first memory rose. A woman's laugh. A boy's hand gripping his father's thumb. A song hummed in a language long gone. The grove itself began to speak through memory, not sound. The unbeing recoiled. "No." Jordan's becoming Jordan stepped beside Naomi. His breath aligned with hers, and for the first time since the grove was born, a second rhythm entered its pulse. Not Naomi's. His, the threshold between silence and song, between root and ruin. The old keeper's voice stirred in the bark. "Guardian, this is where you stand or are unmade." Jordan closed his eyes. The hum inside his chest shifted, and his voice, raw, human, trembling, spoke a single word into the air. Remember, the word was not sound. It was weight. It struck the unbeing like a bell rung deep under water. Its body rippled as if something inside it wanted to break free. The child speaks the fire. The silver-eyed child lifted their hand. The ash. Circles they had drawn outside the grove shimmered into the air, rings of faint light encircling the unbeing. "You were never born to be erased," they said, voice clear, young and ancient, all at once. "You were born from fear, then fear can be forgiven." For a heartbeat, the unbeing froze. The hollow of its face flickered with something almost like an expression, but then it screamed, a sound that shredded leaves and cracked bark. The grove shook. Naomi's invitation. Naomi reached for the unbeing, not as enemy, not as savior, but as memory calling to absence. "You are called," she said softly, her voice like rain on dry soil. "You are called unbeing, but you are not nothing. Come be named, come be held. Even shadow deserves to be remembered." The unbeing staggered, its form bending, twisting as if it wanted to step toward her and away at the same time. "If I am named," it whispered, "I will not survive." Naomi's eyes burned gold. "Then you will live." The grove cracks opened the ground beneath them, split not in violence but in birth. Roots and light poured upward, wrapping around Naomi, Jordan, the silver-eyed child, and even the unbeing. The garden of listening was no longer a place. It was becoming a world. Jordan clutched Naomi's hand. For the first time since her becoming, her fingers felt like flesh against his palm. Her voice brushed his ear, quiet, almost human again. "If we do this, there's no going back." "There never was," Jordan said. The silver-eyed child stepped in too. The last ring of ash and whispered one word, "Begin." The roots surged. Memory screamed and sang at once. The unbeing wailed as its hollow body began to fill with the first truth it had ever fled. The hollow learns its name inside the surge of roots. And light, the unbeing convulsed. Its body of absence tore apart in ribbons, not from attack but from memory forcing its way in. Each ribbon whispered a voice it had swallowed long ago. "I was here. I loved once. I wanted to live." The hollow screamed. "Stop, stop, Hiff. I remember I die." Naomi's arms, now more root than flesh, reached through the storm and wrapped around it. "Not death," she whispered. "Becoming." The silver-eyed child stepped forward. Hush! An ember swirled around their feet as they touched the unbeing's chest. A soft light glowed under their palm. "What are you really?" they asked. For a long moment the unbeing did not answer. Then a voice small, almost like a child's, escaped the hollow. "I am what you refuse to feel." Jordan's breath caught. He stepped closer, the hum in his chest trembling. "Grief," he said quietly. "You are grief denied." Unbeing stilled. Its hollow face turned to him as if seeing for the first time. The grove sings of wounds, the Naomi tree's silver canopy flared. Every leaf burning with soft light. The grove began to hum a new song, low, deep, aching. It was not a song of victory. It was a song of wounds finally allowed to speak. All across the world, people paused without knowing why. In the eastern salt plains, a mother dropped her basket and wept. In a drowned city beneath the sea, bioluminescent fish circled in quiet spirals. In the ruins of Ashanashan, children stopped playing and held each other close. The song said only one thing: we hurt, we remember, we are still here. The unbeing breaks the hollow shell, cracked. From inside, a figure emerged, not a monster, not absence, but a trembling shape of pale light, barely holding form. Its voice shook like glass under pressure. "If I am grief, then who will hold me?" Naomi pulled it close, roots wrapping gently as if cradling a seed. "All of us." Jordan placed his hand on the fragile form. Its pulse synced with Naomi's. The silver-eyed child leaned in and whispered, "Even fire can carry roots." And for the first time since it had been born of denial, the unbeing wept. Its tears hit the soil and sprouted flowers that glowed like moons. The world responds far away. The old gods stirred. Tyone, god of sorrowed winds, bent low and pressed his hands to the earth. "It begins," he murmured. In the sky, Naomi's river tree of starlight pulsed, its leaves scattering into falling sparks that landed across continents. Wherever they touched, forgotten truths, rose names etched in stone. Lullabies hummed to sleeping rivers, love letters buried under ruins. The world itself exhaled for the first time in ages. The threshold opens the grove of listening was no longer a grove. Roots spread beyond sight, threading through mountains, cities, oceans. The Naomi tree's trunk split, revealing a hollow knot of emptiness, but of light. The silver-eyed child looked at Jordan. "Guardian, it's your door to open." Jordan stepped into the hollow. His breath shook, carrying Naomi's rhythm and his own. He looked back at her, half light, half root, still Naomi. "Always Naomi," and she nodded once. He whispered into the hollow, "Let the world remember." The door opened, the door of memory. When the hollow opened, it was not light that spilled out, it was sound. 1,000 voices at once, laughing, weeping, whispering names that had been buried under centuries of silence. The air thickened, not with power but with remembering. Jordan stepped inside first. His skin prickled, his breath caught as if he'd walked into the first heartbeat of the world. Naomi followed, her roots sliding into the hollow like rivers seeking the sea. The silver-eyed child came last, and the door closed behind them with a sigh. Inside was not a room. It was a sky turned inside out, constellations made of moments instead of stars. Jordan reached upward and his fingers brushed a memory, a father lifting his daughter to see the first snow. Naomi touched the ground and felt a song of a village that had sung itself back from famine. The silver-eyed child turned slowly. "This is the heart of the grove," they whispered. "Not the trees, not the soil. Memory itself." The shape of truth at the center floated something small. A seed, faint gold, pulsing gently as though breathing. Naomi reached for it, but the seed spoke not with words, but with knowing. "You are not here to take me. You are here to become me." Her roots hesitated. "I am already becoming," she murmured. "Not yet," the seed answered. "You are memory that heals. But the world needs memory that creates." Jordan stepped beside her. His voice was quiet. "If she becomes that, will she still be Naomi?" The seed pulsed once. "Yes, but more. Unless she will be root and breath. She will be what all forgetting fears. Remembering without end, the unbeing enters behind them. The unbeing, no longer hollow but trembling light, stepped into the threshold. It gasped as the constellations of memory reflected on its thin skin. "This is what I swallowed," it whispered. "All this, all of them." Its voice cracked. "Can I give them back?" Naomi touched its hand. "You are giving them back by standing here." The unbeing closed its eyes. For the first time in its existence, it smiled, a small, broken thing, but real. The seed pulsed again. The silver-eyed child turned to Naomi. "It's time." Jordan grabbed her hand. His voice broke. "If you take it, will you still walk beside me?" Naomi smiled, soft and aching. "Ah, I will walk in every root beneath you. Every wind that touches your breath. I will not be gone. I will be everywhere you stand." Jordan's fingers tightened. He wanted to speak, but instead leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. For a brief, aching moment, he felt her heart not bark, not root, but human and steady beating against his. "Then take it," he whispered. Naomi wrapped her roots around the seed. The grove shuddered. The world tilted. Every forgotten name, every buried truth, every silenced voice sang at once. And Naomi became more outside. The grove across the world it began. In the salt plains of the east, flowers bloomed where none had grown in centuries. In the drowned city beneath the sea, the waters glowed and whispered names into the currents. In Ashvanashan, the cracked war bell rang once, not of war, but of peace. Children everywhere woke at the same moment, whispering, "She is planting us." And deep in the ocean trench, where the unbeing had once nested, silence itself sighed not in defeat, but in release, when roots become sky. Naomi's form dissolved and reformed in wave spark, giving way to light, skin folding into root, root unraveling into breath. The seed pulsed through her body, not fusing with her, but rewriting her shape into something the earth had been waiting to remember. The silver-eyed child stepped back, widening their face. Jordan did not move. His hand was still clasped around hers, and though her fingers were now threads of light, they still felt warm. Human Naomi. The unbeing knelt without knowing why. "She is not a tree anymore," it whispered. The child shook their heads slowly. "No, she is the first remembering." The pulse across the world, the threshold door didn't open it, shattered into roots and rivers, and wind spreading in every direction at once. Memory didn't pour out. It bloomed. A fisherman in a desert village suddenly heard his grandmother's lullaby on the wind. In a city built on glass towers, vines erupted through the concrete, carrying the names of the forgotten, dead. A river once dammed for 100 years broke its chains and sang the sound of its first flow. Everywhere, the same whisper moved through bone and soil. "Remember?" Naomi's last words as Naomi inside the threshold. Naomi's voice wrapped around Jordan and Kieran like soft moss. "I am not leaving. I am only growing." Jordan's throat burned. "Then promise me. Promise me you will still know me when I call your name." Her light shifted, a smile in sound. "You are my name now." To Kieran, she turned, her voice like ember and rain. "Shh. You were born of fire and sorrow, but now you carry roots. Do not fear burning again. Even fire can plant." Kieran's tears hit the glowing floor. "I'll try," he whispered. Naomi's form arched upward. A tree and a river and a breath of sky all at once. And then she was everywhere, threaded through earth and ocean, carried in wind, humming in stone. The Naomi that was flesh was gone. The Naomi that was root and memory had just begun. The guardian steps out. Jordan stumbled from the threshold, the silver-eyed child and Kieran at his side. The grove was silent, not absence, but listening. The Naomi tree's trunk had split into a spiral of light. No longer a single tree, but a doorway for memory itself. Jordan pressed his palm to the soil. He could feel her heartbeat under his hand, steady as rain. A keeper stepped forward from the shadows, cedar-skinned and moss-eyed. "You carry her breath now," she said. Jordan looked up, his voice hoarse. "I carry us both." The unbeing's first seed, the unbeing, remained kneeling, its pale shape shaking. It looked at its own trembling hands. "If I am grief, what do I do now?" Jordan knelt beside it, his voice soft but unyielding. "You plant. Every wound you hold can grow, if you let it touch the soil." The unbeing opened its hands. From its hollow chest, a single black seed fell, gleaming like whetstone. It pressed it into the earth. For a moment, nothing. Then a shoot broke through, not silver, not gold, but deep midnight blue. Its leaves hummed a song of sorrow and forgiveness. Braided together, Kieran touched it and whispered, "Even grief can bloom." The first dawn without her, when morning came, the grove did not look the same. It had no borders now. Its roots were in deserts and mountains. Its canopy stretched into the sea. Jordan stood at its center, the silver-eyed child on one side, Kieran on the other. Its chest still hummed with Naomi's rhythm. "She's not gone," Kieran murmured. Jordan nodded, tears catching on his lashes. "No, she's just everywhere." And far away in the wind that bent wheat and the river that kissed stone, Naomi's voice moved like soft rain. "I remember you." The guardian walks the edge of Jordan's footsteps sounded different now. Each one carried a vibration that made the soil shiver faintly, as if the earth itself was listening. He did not speak much. Words felt too small. Instead, he let the rhythm Naomi left inside him guide where he went. The first place he arrived was a valley where no birds sang. The trees had grown twisted, their branches turning inward like clenched fists. People there lived quietly, afraid of their own shadows. When Jordan stepped into the center of the valley, the ground throbbed once beneath his feet. He knelt, pressing both palms into the earth, and whispered the word Naomi had placed in his chest. "Remember?" The trees trembled. Slowly, one by one, they began to uncurl. A single bird sang, broken at first, then steady. The people wept not because they understood, but because they had forgotten how to feel until that moment. Kieran and the fire roots Kieran followed his own path. The obsidian mirror wrapped in cloth against his chest. His journey took him to a battlefield still smoldering with hatred decades after the last sword had been dropped. The land itself held the anger, every blade of grass sharp with blame. He stood in the middle, clenched his fists, and let the fire rise from his palms, not to burn, but to plant. He pressed his hands into the ash, and from the black soil sprouted roots, glowing ember-red dot. The roots spread outward in a spiral, and for the first time in generations, the ground stopped tasting of war. He breathed out and whispered, "Even fire can be gentle." Silver-eyed childs circle far to the east. Silver-eyed child returned to the ash plains where they had first drawn circles. Their fingers traced the air, reopening the last doorway. This time, it did not hum with threat but with promise. Inside the circle appeared a reflection of Naomi, not as a tree or root, but as a girl with soil on her knees and laughter in her chest. The child smiled faintly. "You remember me too?" The figure in the circle nodded and whispered, "Your name has not yet been spoken. When it is, the last seed will awaken." The midnight tree back in the grove, the blue-black tree planted by the unbeing, had grown taller overnight. Its leaves sang differently than the others, not of healing, but of release. The keepers stood around it in silence. One of them, the moss-eyed woman, touched its bark and whispered, "This is the tree that forgives even what cannot be undone." The unbeing sat beneath it, no longer hollow, but still trembling. "I allowed to stay?" it asked softly. The keeper smiled faintly. "You are part of the soil now. You are home." The valley without memory. Jordan's path led him to a place where even the earth seemed afraid to exist. No trees, no wind, not even echoes. It was as if the world had swallowed itself whole. He stepped into the center and immediately felt it the absence. This wasn't silence. This was erasure. Something here had been so hurt, so denied, that even memory had abandoned it. Jordan knelt, pressing his forehead to the barren soil. "I remember you," he whispered, but the earth did not respond. He tried again, louder this time. "I remember you." Still nothing. Until, faintly, a crack in the air, not sound, not sight, a tremor. Jordan closed his eyes and breathed Naomi's rhythm into the emptiness. And then he heard it. A faint hum, a heartbeat long buried. The valley shivered like something waking from centuries of forgetting. Guardian, a voice whispered. "From nowhere and everywhere, you came back." Jordan smiled through his tears. "I never left." Kieran returns to fire. Kieran's journey carried him to a village half swallowed by ash. He recognized it instantly, though he had no memory of living there. His hands trembled as he touched the burnt doorframe of a ruined house. Flashes came. A woman's laugh. A boy with a wooden sword. His own name whispered not as fear, but as love. Kieran. He fell to his knees. The fire in his palms lit without command, but this time it didn't rage. It flickered soft and warm. A hearth instead of a weapon. He pressed his fire into the soil. A single root spiraled upward, glowing amber. And in that moment, he heard her voice again, the mother from the mirror. "Don't become what they fear. Become what we loved." For the first time, Kieran whispered back, "I will." The silver-eyed child's Naman, the ash plains. The silver-eyed child traced their circles again. This time, they sang softly, a song without words. The last doorway pulsed, not with power, but with recognition. A voice rose from the circle. Soft as moss, ancient as rain. "Child, your name is the final seed." The child's breath caught. "What is it?" The wind shifted. "The earth itself," whispered Leora. The moment the name was spoken, the horizon bloomed. Seeds buried for centuries erupted into light. Rivers reversed their flow. "I'm far away." Naomi's voice moved through every root. "Welcome, Leora. The last seed is awake. The midnight tree blooms in the grove. The midnight blue tree planted by the unbeing shivered. Its leaves opened, and from their veins dripped, not sap, but light." The keeper stepped back as the first blossom opened to flower black as ink, with a heart of silver. The unbeing touched it with trembling fingers. "What does it mean?" The moss-eyed keeper smiled faintly. "It means even grief can become a beginning." The world breathes differently. Something shifted across the entire earth. Mountains sighed like old bones finally resting. Oceans swelled in strange tides that sang lullabies in foam. Children everywhere woke in the night and whispered the same phrase without knowing why. "She remembers us." Jordan stood at the edge of the valley without memory, his hands still in the soil. He felt Naomi's breath in the wind, Leora's name in the hum, and Kieran's fire in the roots beneath him. For the first time since Naomi's becoming, Jordan smiled without ache. The world is learning how to sing again. The last seed. Awakens. Leora stood in the ash plains as light poured from the newly spoken name. The circles she had drawn were no longer ash. They were living roots glowing silver, spiraling outward like veins of memory. The wind shifted, carrying voices not heard since the first song of the world. Some were laughter, some were weeping. All were remembering. Leora touched the largest root, and visions flooded her. Naomi's first breath beneath the Naomi tree. Jordan's hand trembling on bark. Kieran's fire softening into warmth. She saw the unbeing kneeling, saw the midnight blue. Tree bloom dot her silver eyes filled with tears. "I am the last seed," she whispered. "No," said the wind in her hair. "You are the first garden." Jordan beneath the valley Jordan remained in the valley without memory, long after the hum had returned. Something below still called him not in words, but in a weight beneath the soil. He dug with his bare hands until his fingers bled. And there, buried under layers of dust and centuries of forgetting, he found a single bone. Not human, not animal. Smooth as river stone, it pulsed faintly under his touch. The moment his fingers wrapped around it, a voice rose, not Naomi's, not Leora's, not any he knew. Guardian of thresholds, you have uncovered the first forgetting. Jordan's breath shook. What is it? The voice answered like thunder through water. The wound beneath all wounds. Carry it to the grove. The world is almost ready to remember everything. Kieran plants fire in the grove. When Kieran returned to the garden of listening, the trees bowed slightly as he passed. He knelt at the base of Naomi's original tree and held the ember root he had carried since the ash. Village. The unbeing stood quietly in the shadows, watching as Kieran pressed the glowing root into the soil. It burned at first, a sharp light that made the ground hiss. But then it softened, sinking into the earth. Naomi's tree trembled, and a new branch grew in an instant, its bark dark red, its leaves tipped in gold. The grove hummed. The unbeing whispered, almost in awe, fire has roots now. Leora stepped into the groves. Kieran stepped back. A soft breeze moved through the grove, though no wind stirred outside. From the edge of the trees, a child stepped forward barefoot, silver eyes glowing faintly. Kieran froze. Jordan emerged from the valley's path, holding the bone in his hands. The keepers bowed their heads. Even the unbeing shivered. Leora stepped. To the center of the grove, Naomi's tree bent low, roots stretching like arms. The child touched the soil and said softly, I am here. The grove answered not with sound, but with becoming. Every tree's leaves turned gold. The midnight. Tree's black blossom opened wider, its silver heart spilling light into the ground. Naomi's tree pulsed once, and every living thing for miles held its breath. The breath before the song. In that single heartbeat, the world stilled. Oceans calmed. Deserts stopped their winds. Mountains held their echo. Jordan whispered to himself, it's starting. Kieran held the mirror close. In its surface, for the first time, he didn't see fire or ash. He saw children planting seeds in soil that glowed. The unbeing touched its chest. For the first time in eternity, it felt something warm. Hope, and then, softly, a hum rose, not Naomi's voice. Not Leora's, not Jordan's, but all of them together. The first breath returning to the world. The first breath, the hum spread, like ripples through soil and sky. It was not a sound heard by ears, but a vibration felt in marrow. Birds went still. Rivers swelled. Even the stars seemed to pause in the grove of listening. The Naomi tree bent lower until her glowing roots brushed Leora's bare feet. The silver-eyed child exhaled, and for the first time since the world began, the first breath returned. It wasn't loud. It wasn't soft. It was simply true. Every tree in the grove unfurled their leaves at once, revealing veins of light. The midnight blue trees' black blossoms dissolved into silver dust that rose like fireflies. The earth pulsed. Jordan dropped to his knees, clutching the bone. Okay. The hum inside it matched the hum in the grove, and he finally understood. This isn't the first forgetting, he whispered. This is the first promise. The bone crumbled into his hands, melting into golden soil. Naomi's tree shuddered, and every root in the grove drank in the light. The unbeing's awakening. The unbeing stood trembling. The sound in the grove wasn't destroying it. It was remembering it. It clutched its chest as Echo's old naming echoed in its mind. Unbeing. But over that word came another, soft, patient, spoken not by Naomi or Jordan or Leora, but by the soil itself. Come home. The unbeing staggered forward, dropping to its knees in the golden soil. Its shadow skin cracked. Light spilled through. For the first time, it didn't howl. It wept. Kieran knelt beside it without fear. He touched the creature's trembling hand. "You don't have to hide anymore." The unbeing looked at him through a face that was barely holding shape. "What am I?" Leora answered from the center of the grove, her voice steady as root and sky. "You are the part of us we were afraid to love. You are not unbeing. You. Our return." Naomi everywhere as the first breath spread. Naomi stirred not as tree, not as woman, but as presence woven through earth and water. In deserts, seeds long dead cracked open. In drowned cities, ghost lights danced in the currents. In mountains older than language, stone turned to song. Her voice moved through everything. "Remember, remember, remember." And the world obeyed. The grove transforms the grove of listening. Began to shift. The trees did not grow taller, they spread. Roots broke through the soil in spirals, connecting to rivers, caves, cities. The grove was no longer a place. It was becoming a pulse, a living network of memory. Jordan rose slowly, feeling the earth thrum under his feet. "It's not just here anymore," he said. "The grove is everywhere." The moss-eyed keeper nodded, tears running into her cedar skin. This is what Naomi was waiting for. The garden is no longer bound to soil. It is bound to truth. Eh? The door of breath in the center of the grove, beneath Naomi's tree, a shape began to form. A doorway, not wood, not stone, not root. It was woven of light and hum. Leora turned to Jordan and Kieran. "It's opening." Kieran swallowed hard. "What's on the other side?" Jordan's hand brushed the frame. He felt not answers, but the weight of thousands of voices whispering one thing: "Come through." Unbeing Return stood beside them, trembling but unafraid. "Wherever it leads," it whispered, "it's where we left ourselves." The doorway pulsed once, waiting. Another powerful story is coming up in just a few days. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single upload. Also, hit the like button if this story touched you and share it with your family and friends. Someone out there needs to hear this. Thank you so much for watching.